The grand hall of the unconcordant spire was a symphony of silent power. Its walls, fashioned from living crystal, pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent light, casting the assembled dignitaries in hues of cerulean and amethyst. Today was a day of profound significance, the ratification of the first mutual defense, pact between the Galactic Concord and humanity. For the humans, represented by their senior envoy, it was the culmination of decades of cautious diplomacy. For the Concord, it was a curious, pragmatic alliance with a species noted for its baffling resilience and unsettling warmth. The human envoy stood at the central podium, a simple, solid figure amidst the elegant, willowy forms of the Galather and the segmented, chitinous majesty of the Caithar. He concluded his statement, his voice measured and clear, translated seamlessly by the ambient nanits in the air. And so, humanity pledges its solidarity, its strength, and its unwavering commitment to the peace and prosperity of all Concord species. A soft, chiming applause, more a vibration of air than a sound, rippled through the hall. Protocol dictated a response from the lead Concordate negotiator, the Galatharian noble whose stature was unmatched. She rose from her seat of woven light, her form tall and graceful. Her skin held the luster of brushed platinum, and her eyes were vast, luminous pools of silver. She was a figure of timeless beauty and severe dignity, known for her razor-sharp intellect and her icy, impeccable decorum. The hall stilled, expecting the formal, poetic acceptance speech. She glided to the secondary podium, her gossamer robes trailing like captured mist. She looked not at the assembled cameras or the high arbiters, but directly at the human envoy who had taken his seat. Her voice, when it came, was a melody that bypassed the translators, for she spoke in flawlessly accented, but distinctly human, language. Your words are valued, envoy. Your people's achievements are noted. She paused, and the pause stretched, becoming heavy. Her silvery eyes seemed to soften, the perpetual frost within them beginning to thaw under an unseen sun. But they are not what moves me. A faint ripple of confusion passed through the hall. This was a deviation from the script. I have studied your species, she continued, her voice dropping, becoming more intimate, as if she spoke to him alone in the vast space. I have observed your capacity for boundless courage and for gentle care. I have seen your artists who paint with light and your engineers who bridge stars. I have read your stories of tragic love and impossible hope. She took a step closer to the edge of the podium. The human envoy sat perfectly still, his expression one of polite, cautious attention. For 3 cycles, she said, the confession flowing from her like a hidden river breaking to the surface, I have watched a specific recording. It is from your early orbital conflicts. A human vessel, crippled, its life support failing. The commander ordered all to the escape pods. He stayed to guide them out, to ensure the core did not breach. He was the last. He spoke to his crew as they fled, not of strategy or duty, but of the taste of morning coffee on Earth, of the sound of rain in a forest, of holding someone's hand. He told them to remember, to live fully. He made them laugh while he faced the void. He was not a hero from an epic. He was a man, and he chose connection in his final moments. She looked away from the envoy, sweeping her gaze over the stunned assembly. We Galather have written sympies on the nature of sacrifice. We have equations for honor. We do not have morning coffee. We do not have rain. We speak of legacy, but you speak of home. Your strength is not in your alloys or your reactors. It is in this profound, stubborn love for the fragile, fleeting moment of being alive. It burns in you like a star. She returned her gaze to the human, and her next words fell into the silent hall with the weight of a collapsing moon. If only you were my husband. Human, the shock was not a sound, but a vacuum. 10,000 dignitaries, advisors, and ambassadors seemed to cease breathing at once. The high arbiters, their multifaceted eyes unblinking, froze in their seats of office. The human envoy's diplomatic composure cracked for a single, visible instant, his eyes widening before discipline slammed the shutters down. A soft, involuntary chitter of absolute scandal erupted from a Cathar, scribe before being silenced, that the Galatharian lady did not retract her statement. She stood there, vulnerable and defiant, having offered not a political alliance, but a heart. The statement hung in the air, untranslatable in its full meaning, yet utterly clear. It was not a proposition. It was a lament, a recognition of a depth of feeling her own culturally refined, emotionally reserved society had perhaps forgotten how to forge. On the human networks, the reaction was instantaneous and volcanic. The translation algorithms struggled. The phrase, "if only you were my husband," was dissected, analyzed, and celebrated. Social media channels exploded. Human commentators, initially as stunned as everyone else, began to understand. She's not hitting on him. One popular xenocultural analyst streamed, her voice excited. She's yearning. She's seen something in us that we take for granted, that messy, passionate, devoted partnership, that in-the-trenches love that's about shared mornings and facing the dark together. She's saying their civilization has everything except that. Back in the hall, the chief arbiter, an ancient being of crystalline form, resonated a low tone to restore order. The Galatharian lady inclined her head, the moment of raw exposure passing back into dignified stillness. "I apologize for the disruption," she said, now through the official translators, her tone cool and formal once more. "My statement was personal. It does not affect the Concord's commitment to this pact. We ratify." But the genie could not be put back in the bottle. The ratification was signed, the pact was sealed. Yet the only thing anyone would remember was the statement dot in the following days. The human envoy found himself at the center of a diplomatic maelstrom of a most peculiar kind. His briefings were no longer just about trade lanes and defense grids. They included cultural packages on human marriage customs, romantic literature, and the sociological function of the nuclear family unit. The Galatharian delegation was politely insistent on arranging a series of informal dialogues on social cohesion models. The two of them walked in the spire's crystalline gardens, a security detail at a discreet distance. The air was scented with exotic, non-photosynthetic blooms. "You caused quite a stir," the human envoy said. His hands clasped behind his back. "It was not my intention to cause a disturbance," the lady replied, her gaze on the path. It was an inelegant expression of a profound truth. My people found it shameful. A display of unchecked sentiment. My people found it beautiful, he said simply. She stopped, turning those luminous silver eyes on him. Beautiful? Yes, they saw it as the highest compliment. You saw past our ships and our treaties. You saw the man in the vessel, the heart of the thing. I have spent my life in the pursuit of perfection, she said softly. Perfect logic, perfect form, perfect control. Your species is gloriously imperfect. You love imperfectly, fight imperfectly, build imperfectly. Yet from that imperfection comes a warmth that our perfect, cold societies lack. She looked away, a gesture that in a human might have been embarrassment. The phrase husband in our ancient texts implies a shield brother, a bondmate for life's voyage. It is an archaic concept, long replaced by genetic covenants and social contracts. I miss it. I miss what it represents, though I have never had it. The human envoy nodded slowly. On Earth, we have a saying, the light is best seen through a crack. Perhaps our imperfections are the cracks. The dialogue continued, not as courtship, but as a bridge. The shocking statement became the foundation for a deeper, more meaningful alliance than any treaty could mandate. The Galather, cautiously, began cultural exchange programs focusing on human creative arts and social dynamics. Humans, in turn, studied Galatherian philosophy and environmental synthesis. The diplomatic incident was quietly rebranded the first emotional contact. Months later, at the opening of a joint cultural center on a neutral world, the same Galatherian lady and the human envoy stood together again. The atmosphere was lighter, the curiosity now friendly. A human child, part of the ambassador's family group, approached her, holding a clumsily made drawing of two stick figures, one tall and silver, one shorter and brown, holding hands under a lumpy sun. The lady took the drawing with reverence. She knelt, bringing herself to the child's level, a gesture unheard of for her status. "It is exquisite," she said. Her voice warmed out. The child beamed. "Are you going to marry him?" he whispered, loudly, pointing at the envoy. The hall, which had been listening, held its breath again. The lady looked up at the human envoy, a ghost of a smile touching her lips, a gesture she had been practicing. She looked back at the child. "No, little one," she said, her voice carrying through the quiet hall. "But because he is who he is, and his people are who they are, I now know what that word truly means. And that is a gift greater than any alliance." She rose, handing the drawing back with care. The human envoy smiled, not the diplomatic smile of the spire, but a genuine, warm, human smile. The pact between their peoples was signed in law, but in that moment, it was sealed in understanding. The alien lady's statement had not shocked them into division. It had, impossibly, wonderfully, brought them closer. It turned out the most.